All right, welcome everyone. Today, our guest here at the Melissa's Kitchen, this is not her first time, this is actually her second time. This is not her first book, but this is actually her eighth book. We're here to celebrate with Chef Amy Riolo. She's in the States at this time, and we're celebrating her newest book, The Mediterranean Diabetes Cookbook, second edition. But let me tell you a little bit about our friend Amy. She's an award-winning author, chef, cooking show host, and Mediterranean expert. She makes frequent appearances on television and radio programs, including Fox TV, CBS, ABC. The list goes on and on. Travel Channel, Martha Stewart Living. If you've watched anything about the Mediterranean food, one way or another, Amy finds her way at those events, usually as the key speaker. She appears weekly in a 90-second cooking video titled Culture of Cuisine, which airs nationally syndicated on about 28 different channels across the United States, reaching about 250 million people. Her work has also appeared in multiple magazines. She resides in Maryland, so she does a lot of articles there at the Washington Post, CNN, USA Today, Cooking Light. The list again goes on and on. This is actually her eighth book of many to come. She has become a cookbook machine. I don't know when she finds the time in between all of her travels and cooking tours, which bring her to not only Italy, Greece, and Morocco, but you should check out our website and get onto one of her tours and enjoy the Mediterranean and Europe with her. But today I'm going to let our guest now speak, Chef Amy Riolo.
Thank you so much, Robert. I really appreciate it. It's great to be back. Thank you all once again for coming and for being part of this event. I'm really grateful to be able to share the experience with you. Grateful to Robert and Derek and Ida and Raquel and the whole team here who has been doing such a great job to bring this forward. It looks like, they make it look so nonchalant, but it's really a lot of work behind the scenes. And thank you all for your attendance and your cooperation. So August is National Wellness Month, and a lot of people are really surprised to learn we were talking about diabetes. In America now, unfortunately, the rates are 1 in every 2 American adults has either diabetes or pre-diabetes. When I started, it was 1 in 11, and that was horrible. That was epidemic level. Now it's 1 in 2. So, a lot of people say, well, I don't have diabetes, I don't have to eat that way. And it's kind of like, no, we really all should kind of be eating this way so that we can prevent diabetes and prevent a lot of other illnesses. And luckily, the food within the Mediterranean region helps to set us up for good health in all, whether it's brain health, cognitive health, or, gut or heart health, any kind of thing that we're looking at, the Mediterranean lifestyle is really good for it. So this year, U.S. News and World Report actually rated the Mediterranean diet the best overall diet because of ease of use and things like that. And some of you might remember when I came a few years ago for my Ultimate Mediterranean Diet Cookbook, I had to preach a lot about, why to do the Mediterranean diet. Not as much in California because you're really ahead of the curve in terms of wellness. But when I started, this is the second edition. When I wrote the first one in 2011, most of the book was dedicated towards, why people should do the Mediterranean diet and what it is and the lifestyle. Nowadays, everybody knows. So thankfully, I could just kind of get right into the food and get right into the lifestyle. And so the book itself is very different from the first one. It's organized like the Mediterranean diet pyramid, but within each chapter, I go from A to Z in terms of the protagonist ingredients. So like in the plant-based food, we actually start out with, apples, and then we go to artichokes and asparagus and things like that. So whatever produce is in season, people can just go. I wanted to do a seasonal book. Then it occurred to me, what you all have in season is not what is in season in Montana or what we have in Washington, D.C. or in New York. So I did it by ingredient. And I feel like I kind of came full circle in my career and with the cookbook because that's how I started out cooking. Way back in the day, my grandmother's cookbooks, a lot of the old Mediterranean cookbooks, whether from North Africa or Greece or Italy, they listed things in terms of ingredients, not in terms of type or in terms of the meal pattern. And so I used to hate that as a kid, but now I totally see the relevance of it. And I went back and started doing that again. So as you look through the book, you'll be able to see that. And it works very well with Melissa's because that's what they do is produce and ingredients. So they kind of clump things and organize them in terms of the particular, whether it's beets or carrots or apples. And so we're kind of getting back to that. And it's a wonderful way to look at books. So what I'd like to do for the first couple minutes is just show a little bit of a PowerPoint, talk a little bit about the lifestyle, the Mediterranean lifestyle, because that's what we forget, and that's the hardest to replicate. Nowadays, and thankfully because of Melissa's and because of farmers markets, a lot of people have their own gardens. Here, I've been noticing since I've been here, every restaurant I've gone to, the chef has had a garden, which is amazing. So, we're getting that, but I think what's still we can adapt a little bit more of into our lives, wherever we are in the United States, is the lifestyle. So these are some of my social media handles. If anybody's on and those, you're welcome to follow me there. I know some of you already do, and I enjoy that very much. And then, I also like to cover the entire Mediterranean region. So my family's from southern Italy. We're from a region called Calabria, which is in the very most southern tip of Italy before you get to Sicily. This is a lot of ancient Greek and Byzantine roots in Calabria. But I focus on the entire Mediterranean because I believe that there are a lot of similar lifestyle trends, similar traditions, regardless of religion and language and things like that I find as I travel around. And we can adapt all of them. It doesn't have to be exclusive. So I focus on all of these different countries within the region. And this shows a little bit. So here you can see, from Portugal and the south of Spain all the way to Morocco, across to Egypt, up into modern day Israel and Lebanon, Cyprus, Turkey, and then back through Europe. These are the different types of places that I like to lead my culinary tours in, but also that I wrote about in the book. And in the book, I also feature a lot of recipes, a lot of information from the different tours. But one of the first kind of tips that I give people is that, food is a byproduct of lifestyle in the Mediterranean region. It's not the other way around. Nowadays, because food is very popular and to be a chef is kind of to be a rock star, we like to think that it's the food first and then the people, or it's the food first and then the concept. No, there was a concept first that everybody had, and then it became the food, whether it was the pagan religions or then the monotheistic faiths, but there was always a real hidden meaning behind the reason why people eat. And this is an example I took many years ago at the Agricultural Museum of Cairo on mortuary offering breads. And this was specific to the Jewish community, which I think is really cool because, in the ancient times, the pharaohs used to give offerings of food in the tombs for the afterlife. They wanted people to be nourished in the afterlife. So they had food mummies, roasts that they would wrap up and things, and also breads. This was of the Jewish community. So even though this has nothing to do with the Jewish religion, at that time, these are the types of things that people were doing. Also grains, in the Mediterranean culture. So we've got the quinoa today, and we had originally the couscous on, but of course quinoa came from the New World, but it's very hard for us nowadays to wrap our minds around how important grains were in ancient times. They were a commodity. They were worth their weight in gold. That's how people traded and bought things. And the whole ancient Roman Empire was built on the grain and the wheat that they obtained from North Africa. Barley was used most often prior to wheat, and still in Greece and in a lot of different places, you still find a lot of different barley being used in bread. It's very healthy for us, easier to digest. Then, of course, we have Magna Graecia, so Greater Greece, when the south of Italy was being formed and colonized by the Greeks. There are a lot of amazing traditions that started there with food also. So a lot of the wine, for example, that we had in our region, the Galliopo grape and the Aglianico grape, were actually brought back to Greece and served to the Olympic champions. This is the area that my family is originally from. So this is a town called Crotone. It's on the Ionian Sea. In the ancient times, it was Croton, spelled with a K. Now we spell it with a C and an E on the end. Pythagoras lived there for many years and formed a secret school of intellectuals. Pythagoras was also the father of vegetarianism in the West. We forget about that. We think of, we don't think about this very much in ancient times. But in addition to math, he also taught philosophy, nutrition, and music in his school that he formed in Crotone. So we have like a Pythagoras square and a lot of different things named after him. And we had pasta. They were called lagane in southern Italy since the 8th century before the Common Era. So there's a lot of people think that Marco Polo brought the pasta over. He may certainly have brought noodles with him, but we did have it many, many centuries earlier in Italy. And the lagane comes from the Greek word lagana, which is the bread that's eaten on Clean Monday before Easter. So how we turned it from bread into pasta, I don't know, but this is how it got its name. A lot of flavor bases. So we're going to talk about, as I do these recipes or in the different things that I cooked, a lot of the similar ingredients that you're going to be finding within the Mediterranean lifestyle and diet today were around in ancient times. Aromatics are our greatest hope in terms of giving food not only nutritional benefit, but flavor when you're trying to cook more healthfully. So, a lot of people want to give up salt, they want to give up fat, but where do you go? You have to turn somewhere for flavor. So the onions, the garlic, the leeks, all the different herbs, these are the things that give us a lot of flavor. But then of course, they boost up the nutritional component as well. Green gold, so olive oil, obviously very, very important and has been cultivated since the 8th century before the Common Era. Many, 8,000 years ago, we're thinking Mesopotamia is where it originated from, and then came down in through Europe. It was used as a medicinal, it was used as makeup, it was used to preserve things, and it was also used for a culinary ingredient. And they actually found that Hippocrates himself used to prescribe the olive oil as a treatment for ulcers and gastritis and different types of things. So still today in the Mediterranean region, the olive oil is continuing to grow in popularity, luckily, because we have such a great market for it in the entire world. But especially as people are reclaiming the health benefits. There are amazing things going on in Spain and in Italy, Greece, Morocco, Tunisia, all across the Mediterranean. There are wonderful olive oils. Turkey even has great olive oils. Israel has great oil. So we're going to talk a little bit more of those today. Another tip that I like to tell people about that we forget is that meal times are sacred. When everyone here loves food, so I don't have to preach that too much to you, but if you look on mainstream television and on the advertisements that are out there, when they're pushing 60-second things to microwave, meal times are not sacred for the mass part of our community. And even if they were, that will change because of all of this advertisement that's going on, telling people that they shouldn't want to spend more than 60 seconds to prepare something. So claiming this back, I think, is really, really important. And there are different quotes. In Italian we say "alla tavola non si invecchia," which means sitting at the table, no one gets old. And then this is a saying: sit at dinner tables as long as you can and converse to your heart's desire, for these are the bonus times of your life. And this was a saying by the grandson of the Prophet Muhammad. So different cultures, different religions, but all around the Mediterranean, everyone shares this sentiment. And that's very, very important, because it's not like you're eating and then you're going to go and do something. It's you're eating and you're doing something. That is the thing that you're doing. And everything else, fits around that. So I have this picture here, this restaurant. This is a place where we take people in Abruzzo in Italy during the grape and the truffle harvest tour. And my two partners are over there on the left, and then some of our guests are in the rest of the seats. And this particular restaurant was started by a beekeeper who wanted to open a restaurant to showcase his honey high up in the mountains near this beautiful castle of Roccascalegna, which is like the emblem of Abruzzo. He opened a restaurant for us on his name day, which is also the patron saint of the town, so it's normally closed. And he brought us in, so we're thinking he's going to want to get us in and out, right, because he opened just for us. Instead, we got there at 11:30. Our only other appointment was at 4:30 at the Olive Oil Grove, which I ended up private labeling my own olive oil from, but we'll talk about that later. So 11:30, we have to leave at 5:30. We told him, we said, Cosmo, we have to leave here at 4:30 because we've got to go to the olive oil place at 5. So he looks at us, very scared. He looks at me and my partner, and he says, okay, it's 11, and he's like doing the math, 12:30, 1:32, 33, 34, 35. Okay, because you're in a hurry, I'll get you in and out of here. Appetizer, first course, second course, third course, dessert, cheese and fruit, coffee, liqueur. You will be out of here, don't worry, by 4:30 because you're in a hurry. So that's it. That's what we're missing the most. So also there's a tradition of something called the sangre. So sangre comes from the Latin word for sacred, and now in Italian we say sacra, but these were actually food festivals that were started during pagan times. So we're coming up upon harvest time. August is usually September harvest time in the world, and they had all of these festivals for the different agrarian gods, in order to give thanks for whatever was produced. And so then they started having festivals around those. And then a lot of times in early Christianity, they forbade those festivals because they felt like they were paganistic. Then they brought them back again. Italy's really big on the sangre, and they, like a lot of times, slow food will protect the different, even in like Tunisia, they have the Festival du Pain, and for bread, and one for couscous and different things. They'll start to promote them, but the whole town comes out. This is a picture with a Madonna, so it's a religious festival. But sometimes they combine the religion and the fruit in the produce. Sometimes it's just produce. Sometimes it's just religion. But it could be this is peperoncino, the pepperoncini earrings, because from Calabria, this is our most important. And you all have hatch chilies, so that's something we have in common. Very, very important. But it's important also culinarily, because say by the time the person, a kid grows up in a region like this, and every year you're going to the piazza because it's a pepperoncino festival. By the time you're 6, you're gonna have an idea of all the 50 million different ways that you can prepare a pepperoncino because you're walking around that every year. And so it's like the best education because they're celebrating produce, and produce is the most beneficial thing that we can eat. So that's a little bit of what I like to highlight in the region. So this is an example of Saturn, for example, and then when Christianity became popular, all of the agrarian gods were replaced by saints. But the benefit was within the church, there were many more saints than there were gods. So instead of just having the one agrarian god, you now had a saint who protected wheat. You had a saint who was the patron of pastry chefs. You had a saint who, would do the other crop, saint for the fishermen, and it provided for the people who were producing the food a lot of different kind of benefits and way to worship. But it also helped these sangre to continue. Again, not because of the food, but because of the spiritual things behind it. Then we have offering breads. So like we started, with the thing with ancient Egypt and the mortuary offering that the regular community had, and also that the Jewish community had. And now you can go to Greece and you see these breads are still made every year. So we have the tsoraki over on the left, which is the one made for Easter. And then up at the top, coming up, August 27th, is Ayu Fanurio, which is St. Fanurius Day. This is the day if you lose something, you have to make a cake. And you make a prayer. If you find whatever you lost, you bring it to the church. In ancient times as a donation. Not everybody brings it to church, but you still make the cake. So it's a good cake. And then you have the Vasilopita for New Year's with the hide a coin in. And there's a process. We would slice it. Whoever finds the coin has luck for the new year. So these are things that are still made, but that go back from antiquity. And also in Italy, we have a lot of them for the different things. So we have for Easter, this is my grandmother's, bless her soul, Cuzzupi di Pasqua on the left. On the right, we have the zeppole, or the cream puffs for San Giuseppe. We have the tart for San Rocco, and we have for Sant'Antonio, we have the tarali over on the right. So every time there's a feast, every time there's a saint day, there's a different tradition, a different bread, a different sweet that's dedicated to it. Sweets weren't eaten every day. These special breads weren't eaten every day. Now we can go to any Italian bakery and get a zeppole any time of the year we want. But is it really good for us to eat these every day? We should wait till March 19th and just, have it once. But they are good. And of course, food is medicine. So now the culinary medicine is popular. It has a term. I collaborate a lot in the Washington, D.C. area with Dr. Sam Pappas, who's a Greek-American doctor, and we have a lot of handles called at Culinary Med Life. He does the medical part, I do the culinary part, and we talk about different ways in which people can use food. I also taught a cooking class series around this concept with different things. And a lot of the recipes from this and a lot of the information is all on my blog. So you can go there and access an anti-inflammatory diet or brain health diets and things like this. That is pretty much found within the Mediterranean lifestyle anyway, effortlessly, because the recipes taste great, but they happen to adhere to a lot of these tenets. So one of the things, a quote that I like to give is approximately 70% of the modern doctors were able to prove 70% of the ancient Egyptian things in their medical texts to be true. And I tell you, but it doesn't mean that the other 30% isn't true. It just maybe we haven't gotten there yet. But this type of thing is not new. We're always going back into traditional Chinese medicine, traditional Egyptian, Indian, Ayurvedic to prove these things. And this is the last one I'll end with for the PowerPoint, because it's also the base of the Mediterranean lifestyle, is communal eating. So if you look at the Mediterranean diet pyramid, right, the base of it is extra, often get physical activity and then eat meals with others. Eating communally, really, really important base of the Mediterranean lifestyle, because they've proven, in addition to the nutrients, there's a lot of psychological effects to eating together. It provides people with a sense of security and a sense of well-being that kind of sets you up in order to be able to enjoy the food better, digest more of the nutrients. And so, we have a saying in Italian, chi mangia da solo si strozza in solitudine, which means who eats alone strangles himself in solitude. And it's a little bit drastic, but there's also other sayings. Epicurus said, choose someone to eat with before you choose what you're going to eat. And all of these kind of things just set it up. It's not just about fueling your body. It's really about that ritual and being with people. So nowadays, it's hard for a lot of people in our modern setting because you're in a work in a cubicle by yourself, you happen to be in your car at the time to eat, or you're home and maybe you have a beautiful family, but this kid's got practice and this, parent is doing this and that parent's doing that. So it's hard to like bring everybody together. So on my blog, I actually give tips, and I suggest people do things like a carpool or like a share ride or like a tennis. You don't play tennis alone, right? A lot of people do carpooling. There's other activities that we value to do together, so we do them together. And I think there's a little bit, we can get that message out more and we can help people to kind of, embrace this a little bit more, because it's really, that's what it's all about. And then we talk about ingredients and nutrition and things like that. So I'm going to transition over now, and I'm going to start the recipes, and then we'll do a little Q&A at the end, if that's okay with everybody. So I was very lucky because Ida and Raquel have done such a great job here that I really, don't have a whole lot of work to do, and I wish I did, because maybe it would be a little bit more dramatic, but that's okay. You all will get the gist. And I have a lot of recipes on my YouTube channel too. So if there's anything that you feel like you didn't get to see or you'd like from me, you can either Google my name and the recipe, or just go to my YouTube channel and you'll see a lot of different things coming up. So the first one I'm going to do are the shrimp, cucumber, and boursin tartines, and they're the one that you ate before. And of course, you all know what tartines are, and we can prepare them in many different ways, but basically they're an open-faced sandwich. We're doing little mini ones today, almost like on an Italian crostini. Normally a tartine would be a little bit larger, but this is more elegant for, if you're going to do a buffet as we had here, or appetizer or something like that. Otherwise, use whatever you like and do it open-faced. The other day I had to create something with some leftovers for something I was working on, and I had cornbread. So I actually grilled the cornbread and made like a tartine out of a cornbread base. It can be, if you're gluten-free and you want to do a slice of eggplant or a portobello mushroom or something, you can also do that. So we have our little bread that's been toasted here, and we'll use that as a base for our tartines. We've got the cucumber, and we've got the boursin cheese. So I'm going to kind of slather a little bit of the cheese, and this is just a cream cheese with some herbs. It's very easy to spread. It's a French cheese, but if you wanted to use mascarpone or do something like that, you could. Now these recipes, you're going to notice on the recipes, there's a lot of very detailed measurements. So a teaspoon of this, a quarter teaspoon of that, an eighth a teaspoon. Normally, I don't measure things so drastically when I'm cooking by myself, but it's important for the books that I've done with the American Diabetes Association, because people who have diabetes have a certain amount of exchange and a certain amount of nutrients that they can get in different things. So they had to be able to weigh and measure that, and so we did it that way specifically for this. So I'm going to add, I've got my pan really screaming hot. For the shrimp, it's important to have your pan nice and hot. And I'm going to add my olive oil. So I've got this one, but instead, for the very first time, I'm going to use my own. So this is my own olive oil. It's from Abruzzo in Italy. It's a blend of two cultivars or varieties called the Gentile di Chieti and Intosso. The Intosso is specific to the Abruzzo region. And this is one of the places, beautiful orchard, that we take people on the culinary tours to Abruzzo. We actually do tours during the olive oil harvest, so people can come and participate. And the people, Trappetto di Caprafico, who actually produce it, are award-winning in Italy. It's a really wonderful oil, and I'm very fortunate to be able to have it. So I'm going to start by just putting these shrimp in there. So I've got a very hot pan. You want to hear the splatter with the shrimp. You all are great cooks, I know, but maybe there's some people watching at home who don't cook that much or are a little bit scared of shrimp. I find a lot of my students and my readers are really scared of seafood. And I think that's because they've had seafood that was overcooked. So the secret with shrimp is hot pan, hot oil, get them in there quickly. Don't do a whole lot to them. Here I've got some herbe de Provence. So a really nice Provençal herb mixture. Has a little bit of marjoram, thyme, basil, mint, fennel, lavender, oregano, rosemary, all kind of, sometimes chervil in it. And that just gives a really nice perfume to the shrimp. And then what I do is I keep them on one side to kind of sear them. And I make sure that they have a little bit of pink. So you all can kind of see the pinkness down at the bottom. That's how I know we're in a good place. You can do this also, the same exact technique with scallops or with white fish, anything that you like. When you're using scallops, make sure you get the ones that are labeled dry. That means they don't have any TSP in them, which is trisodium phosphate, because that will prevent them from browning like this. And I learned because one time I was on television, and I was teaching people how to sear scallops. My scallops were staying white, and I was so embarrassed, and I kept trying to get the cameraman to go off of my dish, because they always are right in, and they're white. and go off. And I couldn't figure out why. They weren't turning, and I'm turning them, and I'm turning the heat up, and they weren't doing anything. And then I said, oh no, there's something wrong with these scallops. So I went home and looked it up. They inject them with something called TSP to make them weigh more, so that then they'll cost more. And unfortunately, that they're allowed to do that. So just be very careful. Buy your scallops, make sure that they're dry, and you'll know from the price, because the dry ones, at least where I live, are like $27.99 a pound, and the other ones are much less expensive. Now, if you're making a stew or a bouillabaisse or something where you're just putting them in, it won't matter. But if you're doing something where they have to be seared, it will. So I'm just making sure that I get them all cooked on this side, and then I'm going to pull them when they're a little bit early. You can hear all of this screeching, right? So this is the carryover cooking time. And if I would leave them on the oven, on the stove, until I was sure that they were like cooked and maybe a little bit overcooked because I was scared because they were seafood, then they would be overcooked. By the time I pick them off, you can see now the curls are just starting to curl, and they have this really nice look to them. If I would have waited, they would really shrivel up like this, like a very tight, at symbol. You want them to be a little bit looser than that because they still cook. And then when you're done, they become quiet, and that's how you know that they're done. If you're at home, put some lemon juice on top. Lemon juice is antimicrobial, antibacterial, kills anything. So if you're ever not sure of anything, yes, it gives seafood a great flavor, but it also has that benefit of allowing you to make sure that everything is cooked through. So I'm going to let them finish. I'm just going to take my cucumbers and put them on top. Cucumbers have a lot of silica in them. So, we were talking before we came in, Alicia and I, about how they're really good for your eyes, because the silica helps to prevent the wrinkles, and the moisture content in them is also really great for the skin. So good to eat in the summer because they have so much moisture. And here at Melissa's, I really like their little cucumbers. And I also like, what would be great here are, where's Robert? Over here. Your rainbow radishes. Oh, yeah. The rainbow radishes would be so cute on this dish. I would really like to have them here. I used a lot of those this spring in some different dishes that I was doing. And the radicchio. I'm in love with the radicchio. Has anyone seen their rose-shaped radicchio that they have? It's really beautiful. So now they're quiet, so they're done. I always tell people, you have to use your ears in the kitchen, not just your taste and your aroma, but also this sense of hearing can be really important when you cook, because it'll let you know when everything is done, when you're ready to go on, or when you need to stop. So just put these guys over here for a second. So there's our little tartines. So you could do anything. You've got leftover chicken. In the book, there's a recipe for a skillet chicken shawarma. So you have leftover rotisserie chicken and you do it in a skillet. You could put that on top of the tartine. The sky's the limit with those, but they're a great way to use leftover things. So I'll just put that over here. We can make some more later. So now this is the little salad that I learned from students. So the apple, beet, and carrot salad. We've got the beets from Melissa's. Do you have them in a package I can try? They've got these great beets that are already steamed, so you can just go right into the recipe if people don't want to cook them. But if people are at home, anybody's watching us, 425, wash the beets really well, prick them like you would do a baked potato, throw them in your roasting pan until they're tender, and then put them in a blender. Or you can do these raw. This salad, actually, you can do with a raw beet. So just peel it, chop it, into quarters, put it in your food processor, it'll be fine. You don't have to cook the beet and you're able to use it. But I really like these ones that Melissa have because they make it an easy, accessible way for people to eat beets. And I found there were 2 people in here who tasted the beet recipe, the one that we had with the dip, with the tahini and the yogurt. They said, I don't normally like beets, but they like beets in that. So thank you both for that. That's the best endorsement ever, is when you can convert someone, especially if I can convert them into vegetables. So here we have our carrots. I'm going to add them in. They have the beautiful carrots I have over. I'm going to get them because they're so pretty. I have them over at my station. But they're the tricolor carrots, the orange and the purple and the white. Thank you. And they're just so beautiful. It's like such a treat, right? To be able to work with these and to get all of those beautiful colors. Because the different colors have, different phytonutrients in them. And so it's nice to get a variety. It makes it look prettier and makes it look more appetizing, and they go in. Carrots add sweetness to everything. And again, this was one that children taught me. So if the children like this recipe, the adults definitely will like it. No excuses on this one. Just kind of toss these all together. And this you can do in advance, put some lemon juice on it so that the apples don't discolor, and just keep it in your fridge until you need it. And if you're, you've got some kind of thing on the grill or you've got a sandwich, you just need even these tartines, a little something to go with it. It's good. And it will sit up for a while. So if you want to have it and be able to use it during the week and just kind of when you come home, or you could put it on lettuce also, is really nice. I'm going to add my parsley. You could also do cilantro. I know some people in here don't like cilantro, but parsley and cilantro are both very good detoxifiers for the body. So we can get those in as much as possible. They help us to be healthy. Got walnuts. So walnuts have a lot of omega-3. And actually, this is like a nice size, a little handful. People like nuts. If you can do nuts, to get this much nuts into your diet every day is a really good thing. It will help with so many different things. Brain function, skin, and plus they taste great. They give us a little bit of protein. And then I'm going to make my dressing. So I've got this beautiful blood orange juice. I don't know if you all saw the blood oranges that we've got here. Today I had some of those over there too that I cut open, but they're just beautiful. They give this a nice acidity. I also like these with shrimp. This same recipe, so you didn't want to do the tartines, you just wanted to have the shrimp by themselves with a little bit of the orange zest from those blood oranges and the orange juice at the end is really beautiful. Shrimp and salmon. We forget about orange juice sometimes with seafood. We always want to use lemon juice, which is great, but orange is like a nice little unexpected kind of a thing as well. I like a very strong acid to oil ratio when I do mine. A lot of people like 1:4. I tend to do 1:3, but you all can do, obviously whatever you like. Just whisk this up. And you could keep this separate and put it together later if you wanted. You could also do other vegetables in here. So zucchini, squash, cucumbers, pretty much, the sky's the limit. Even daikon radish should be really nice. Or the rainbow radishes that they have here would also be good. So you just want to make it nice and homogeneous like this. Put that guy on there. Just give these a toss. This would be good also around like Thanksgiving time because it goes really well with the gamey flavors. Okay, so that's that guy. So those are those two. It's just a super simple little demo today. I know you all cook and you have a lot of different things that you like to do. So these are very simple, but it's important to me to have simple recipes like that in this book because I find that a lot of people and a lot of reason people are unhealthy is because either one, they don't have time, they don't make time, or they're intimidated by cooking. So I think it's important to have things that are just like great little easy solutions. But those are those two, and I'm happy to take questions, or I can talk about this anymore, or whatever you'd like to hear.